Does Taylor Swift have narcissistic traits or does she actually have narcissistic personality disorder? Let's talk about the narcissism of stardom and how pop icons construct the self. Narcissistic traits versus narcissistic personality disorder. First, it's crucial to separate narcissistic traits, which many successful people have in moderation, from narcissistic personality disorder, which is a clinical diagnosis. Traits include a strong need for admiration. And didn't she say in Miss Americana that ever since she was cheered, she just strives to have that again, like continuously being cheered on by people? That she lives for that? A belief in one's own specialness or uniqueness, a high confidence of entitlement, an intense focus on image and reputation, difficulty accepting criticism, and a drive to control the narrative and perception. Now, these aren't inherently bad. In fact, they can be very adaptive if you have a high visibility career like in film or music. But how do these traits function in pop stardom? Pop stardom is built on narrative control and self mythology. Artists like Madonna, Beyoncé, Lady Gaga, and Taylor Swift all construct very powerful narratives about themselves that fans can both worship and relate to. This controlled vulnerability is the hallmark of celebrity narcissism, an outward performance of intimacy while carefully managing what's real. So let's just use Taylor Swift as a case study. And if you want me to use somebody else as a case study, please let me know in the comments and I will do this exact analysis on them as well. You'll see pretty quickly that there's a playbook. First, let's get into the early years, the chosen one energy. Her debut era revolved around a small town girl destined for greatness. Even in her early interviews, she emphasized her self belief, her drive to succeed despite rejection, and her awareness of being different. The trait here is grandiosity, rooted in purpose, a belief in her destiny. Then we have narrative ownership. Throughout her career, she has repeatedly rewritten the public's perception of her. Blank space, look what you made me do, and the man all center on how controlling others see her. This trait is image management, using criticism as a raw material for reinvention. Then we have the mirror of the audience. Her parasocial genius lies in how she mirrors her fans' emotional states back to them: heartbreak, revenge, empowerment, making them feel seen through her story. The trait here is idealization and mirroring, common in narcissistic dynamics. But here, it's creative empathy turned into a marketing engine. Now let's go on to her public feuds and victimhood narratives. Her public conflicts: Kanye, Scooter, the media often cast her in the role of the misunderstood heroine. This narrative galvanizes loyalty while reinforcing her control over the emotional narrative and the emotional framing. This trait is sensitivity to criticism, externalization of the blame, the need for justice framed around her self image. And then we have the life of a showgirl. Her latest visual and musical evolution embodies the self awareness archetype, the performer, a woman whose entire existence has become a performance art. Now, the trait here is hypercuration. This is a hypercuration of her own identity, an acknowledgement of her own myth, which is like a meta narcissism, both critique and continuation of her own persona. But here's why pop stars need these narcissistic traits to succeed: self belief. You can't command arenas or media empires without a deep conviction of your own uniqueness. Image control. Constant surveillance requires constant reinvention. Emotional exhibitionism. Turning personal pain into universal art demands comfort with exposure and detachment. Fame requires emotional boundaries, and those can resemble aloofness or grandiosity. In short, a healthy dose of narcissism is the price of survival in the spotlight. The danger comes when that self construction replaces authentic identity entirely, which is a tension that many stars explore in their later careers. Taylor Swift Showgirl, Gaga's Fame Monster, Beyonce's Sasha Fierce. Now, this isn't shade by any means. This is actually psychology. Every single superstar has to be a bit narcissistic. Taylor's just the best at turning it into art. Agree or disagree? Let's talk about it in the comments. Maybe the real question isn't, is Taylor Swift narcissistic? But can anyone survive the level of fame without becoming a little bit narcissistic? I'm curious how you see it. So let's talk below.